I also would encourage first generation students to really reflect on and think about what their first generation identity means. I think it's very can be very comforting and confidence building, and we talk about our first generation students here at UF as trailblazers, as role models, as students who are very worth celebrating, and validating their stories and where they came from really matters, I think, in their success. So new students, here at UF, we want them to claim and capture and own and be proud of what it means to be first generation.
To be able to impact the lives of not only the students, but to be impactful in the lives of the community, their siblings, whole neighborhoods who may have never had a student who went to college or university, let alone graduate.
And I can go on and on, but I think a lot of those stories really are based in students' lived experiences and how they've been able to navigate UF with their own strength and by finding community and really looking at being first generation as a point of pride and empowerment rather than something to be ashamed of.
The University of Florida was founded as a land-grant institution in 1853 with the purpose of providing accessible higher education for the entire state. The Common College narrative at the time supported only white men. It took UF until 1971, with the founding of the Institute of Black Culture, to establish institutionally recognized policies that celebrated diversity. Bernie Machen highlights the importance of diversity in Florida.
One of the most heterogeneous in-migration populations in the country. So every year the state was becoming more diverse.
Sustaining the trend of inclusion, in 1990, the American Hispanic Alumni Association was founded as a place for yet another underrepresented minority. 4 years later, La Casita was created as a home for the school's Hispanic community. Erica Aguiar highlights the importance of second families for first-generation college students.
Above the money, above the resources we provide, they're very thankful for all of those things, but it's the people and the interactions that they can make with fellow students and alumni of the program that has changed their experience, because on a campus of 50,000, they can see that bright orange MFOS shirt and there's an immediate, you get me.
Erica also speaks to how MFOS and existing places of support work together to serve first-generation college students.
We can't do it all. We absolutely can't. And so we've always been really interested in how others are supporting first gen, and we don't believe we own it. So, the Association of Hispanic Alumni, for example, they've been supporting MFOS for years, I think, because many of them are first gen graduates. We've always relied on others to sort of do this. And we really try to cross-collaborate as much as we can. One of our biggest supporters and sort of co-planners is the Office of Academic Support, which includes the Promise Program, TRIO programs, McNair, because we know that our students exist in those areas. And if they've got resources that we don't, we want to make sure that we're, helping our students. We're all here for student success, right?
In 2004, Bernie Machen came to UF from the University of Utah. There, he tested a program for first-generation students, and as UF's 11th president, he chose to expand this idea. Machen's move was significant because 1 year prior, after the Grutter v. Bollinger Supreme Court case that upheld affirmative action, then-President George W. Bush displayed great disapproval, compounding fears and instability for first-generation and minority students of the time. In 2005, Dr. Machen asked the Vice President of Student Affairs to find a way to make first-generation college student experiences better. The following year, the Florida Opportunity Scholars Program was founded with the intentions of providing financial support to low-income first-generation college students that had been accepted to the University of Florida on their own merit. This program was one of the first of its kind. In 2009, while the FOS program was expanding, Leslie Pendleton was hired to become the director of the Florida Opportunity Scholars Program.
I was looking to work ideally at a larger land grant institution and landed here at the University of Florida working in new student and family programs. And so helped run our orientation and first year experience programs from 2006 to 2009. I vividly remember we were sitting around the conference room table in Peabody Hall because I was a member of the Dean of Students staff, and Jean Jarsky, our Dean of Students at the time, said, so we have this new scholarship program that President Machen wants to launch, and Dr. Tejas Irvin is very supportive of it, but we need a team of people. Has anybody ever worked with first generation college students before? Or raised my hand and said, oh yeah, actually, I'm pretty familiar with first gen students from, my coursework. Anyways, a group of about 7 of us came together and met pretty regularly to build out the support elements for this program. And so I was part of the program from the beginning, but then in 2009 became the director.
1 year later, the first class of Florida Opportunity Scholars graduated, marking the beginning of a long story of success for the program.
One of the coolest things, I'm glad we're doing this project now, is that Richard and I both started in 2017. So this spring will be our first class that we've fully graduated, that we welcomed them in the summer and fall of 2017, and that they'll now graduate in 2021. And I think that's the best thing that I could even think about as we're working on this project is to talk about how college changes people. Well, we've seen that, and we've seen all of those little steps in the process.
2012 marked an important year for the program when they received a donation of $10 million from an anonymous donor. Since the donation was made in honor of Bernie Machen, FOS decided to change its name to the Machen Florida Opportunity Scholars Program, which it remains today.
Can tell me a little bit about what it means to be a first generation college student?
It means I put my family on my back, and I said, there's no barriers that I'm gonna let get in my way to do what I want to do.
It also means opportunity to me. It means that this is my chance to really, put us out there.
Yeah, I think that sometimes being first generation gives me that little oomph, that little thing that kind of sets me apart.
So imposter syndrome is this feeling of being an imposter. We see it a lot with marginalized groups, first gen students, and I always describe it as this mistake.
There's a sense that I've had for a while of being one of the only people in the room. I think imposter syndrome changes based on your situation. But the good thing is that I did believe I had a strong academic background, and I wasn't afraid to be around people that I thought didn't have the same backgrounds as I did.
I think there's different aspects of your life that you feel like an imposter from, when I went to UF and I felt like, oh my gosh, because a lot of people, there was this one comment in high school that a person told me when they didn't get in. They were like, oh, you got in because you're Hispanic. And I was like, I'm second in my class and I play sports and I do all these things. I think I deserve this, but that very much stuck with me because, it was the whole thing, did I get in on my own merit or did I not?
Although students in MFOS come from all sorts of backgrounds, they're not all ethnically diverse, right? But there were a lot of people who were ethnically diverse that were MFOS students.
I'm a first generation here, right? I'm a first generation Black girl at UF. And it's it's uncommon.
There's not one way to perform being Latinx or being Black or being anything, right? You can exist in multiple areas. So just because I didn't speak Spanish and because I'm light skinned doesn't negate my identity.
And so being first generation, it's hard finding the balance between being my background, which is Mexican, being Mexican descent, but also being American because I'm both.
Everything, every layer that you bring as a student parent or, as a student who's lost a family member or as a student of color who's, working through their queer identity, those are things we have to continue to talk about and we are incredibly cognizant of and we lead with because I don't know how I can support you if I'm only looking at one part of you because we're multifaceted people.
It's just always, I think, great to meet someone that reminds you to not put yourself in a box, that there are a lot of options that you can pursue, and just to help you explore what that is.
That's what the MFOS provided. They really took a hold of the first year Florida program and had an MFOS component of that. They had workshops that taught us about finances. I mean, we had never been on our own before. If you were me, you were used to being broke. So when you had a lump sum of money, you were like, how am I gonna manage this to make this last? And so that financial literacy was really important.
So my first mentor position was through MFOS. I was a mentor for first generation students. The biggest thing with mentorship and giving back is to make them feel like they have a friend. I don't expect them to confide in me since day one, but it was kind of crazy to see the build up from the beginning of the semester to the end, where some of them confided in me like, hey, I have to drop a class, I haven't told anyone, can you be, of assistance for me and stuff like that? Or, I'm having this issue back home with my parents and I don't know where to stay for winter break, I have to stay in the dorm and stuff like that. So I put them in contact with some RAs that I knew that were staying over the break so that they wouldn't feel so alone and stuff like that. So, little things like that it's like, if I wasn't there, then who would have been?
I didn't have to feel like I had to put on this mask. We see that so much with our students. I could talk really freely and openly about the struggles my family was facing with money or, identity issues I was having because they understood. And it, there wasn't this weird, why can't you just go out and buy that new thing? Or why can't you do this? They just sort of got it. So the MFOS program is literally what kept me in college, what helped me graduate. I attribute all my success to it. But that first year, those first couple years were really hard. And I'm thankful to Leslie and the mentors and faculty and staff that I had in my life to help me keep going. Alums are so successful. We have 2 alums who just graduated from Yale Law School. We have them at UF Medicine. We've had one who was in the Peace Corps for 2 years, one who works for ESPN. I mean, they are out there changing the world. And that's the network that we've been able to form for our alumni and for our current students. That I think without this program, one of the typical things about being first gen is that it's an invisible identity. So you can't always look at someone and be like, all right, you're first gen. So because of the MFOS moniker or, you wearing that shirt, you sort of know who exists where.
I had the unique opportunity after I graduated from law school to be a part of the Leadership Council, which really gave me an in-depth look at what was going on with the program. I couldn't believe that they were like adding more and more students. They have the ability, it's just grown. There's such a need for this help with students. And as good as the program was, there was more people who needed help. And I think that they have really, over the years, risen to the need, to meet the need. But I also hope that they continue the support for the students, because at the end of the day, money comes and goes, but the support that you give people is what's gonna really last and what they're gonna learn from in order for them to one day be supported, right? It'll put them in the best position to hopefully become donors to the program themselves. I donate to the program, I'm a donor. And I think that I wouldn't be able to without those foundational things and the support. So I think that there's no limit to that support.
Well, I remember that day because I was so proud of myself. I graduated with all of these honors and Tim Tebow was right in front of me. Yes. And I just remember remember him walking out and there was a standing ovation. And I just remember it. I was happy. I was clapping because I was excited for him as well. And then I remember when I walked across the stage, I remember the president at the time gave me this look like, who are you? You have all of these rewards on and I don't know your name. And I'm like, don't worry, I'm not Tim Tebow, but I am Lakeisha Witter here.
It was maybe the most exciting day of my life. I had the opportunity with MFOS to speak at a few events in my time, just about some hurdles I overcame and how the scholarship program came alongside me. And because of those opportunities, I got to know Bernie Machen really well. And it was just a really unique opportunity. So I remember just like gearing up for graduation and you put the cap and gown on and it's just something I had dreamed of my entire life. And just being a part of the crowd and then walking across the stage and getting a huge hug from Bernie Machen saying, great job, like you've done it. I did it, like I reached my goal and it was a really beautiful moment.
The beauty of the program here is that it does remove the financial, needs to be a student. So we fully fund everything: tuition, room, board, books. Theoretically, this program should remove the financial barriers for students to be full participants in the university environment.
MFOS has really done a lot for me, honestly. It allowed me to come here, and it was the first thing that it was the first organization, MFOS Ambassadors, that I was a part of that made me feel like, that I was doing something other than school.
Like, I realized that if I really want to start a new journey, if I want to be who I like, the goals I want to do, I kind of need to get out of that comfort zone.
Machen for the opportunity, the scholarship has provided me, I'd like to say, invaluable resources. I've been able to get involved in research since my first semester. I've been involved in research, another type of research, which my first research opportunity that MFOS kind of trailblazed allowed me to get the research opportunity that I have now.
I can give back through my service, and I think that that's something that I've really been excited for, and it's kind of showed me that following your passions is more accessible than one may think. I think giving the opportunity to people like me to be able to feel like, wow, my story is worth sharing. Like, this story, is made possible by the opportunities I've been given, I think is really powerful.
I think if I hadn't met Erica and I haven't met Richard, then I really wouldn't have even thought about doing higher education, because they were the first people who I truly admired here at UF. I was like, they're taking the time to talk to me, and they really do care about me.
I kind of got lucky of being chosen to be part of MFOS, and it really has helped a lot. And not only has it helped that the financial side of it, but it's kind of helped me personally, because I realized you're kind of in it all together.
Going here was a huge leap for me, and I think the MFOS program is proof that there are resources out there, and we're seeing a huge shift. This was not possible for my grandparents and my great grandparents, and now I'm setting a precedent for my family, and I'm setting a precedent for families back in my community to say, hey, this is super doable.
I literally want to scream this from the top of my the rooftops of everywhere. If you are thinking about school and you think you cannot go to school because of financial reasons, think again.
When we had our very first kind of event at the University House, now it was called the President's House then. In fact, Bernie lived there at that time. We had that first event there, and we were really, intentional. And saying like, you all are scholars, like you're brilliant, you're smart, we're better placed because you're here, and really talked about them as a really value add to the university. And I think that, again, set the stage for, I think, others at the university to understand that first-gen students, you know, it's not just this deficit-based perspective.
I don't know what the future holds for me, if I'm being honest. I think the future me will handle that. I'll have to give the biggest thank you to MFOS. And I know that Richard and Erica and Leslie, you know, they're all going to be so happy for me. And I know for a fact I'm going to get back to MFOS because I would want to change someone's life just like MFOS has changed mine.